So those were a list of my identities, and I'll be talking about more about them in a bit. Last week, for people who are here, Randy talked about society and how people who are discussing issues often view their conversations as combative, not as cooperative. So, I'm right, you're wrong, my view is the correct one. And we often view compromise as a bad thing. And he asked us to consider kind of what he called going upstream, to contemplate a better way. And I think the start of contemplating a better way is kind of the theme for this month, drawing on our good. In fact, drawing on our good, I feel that's kind of the core of Buddhism. And when I heard that theme, I thought of this book, the Dharma Flower Sutra. It's called the Lotus Sutra. It's 2,000 years old. And in it, there are amazing stories of people realizing their highest spiritual potentials. For example, there's the story of there's some old, mostly enlightened guys sitting around, and here comes Manjushri, the Buddha of wisdom. If you ever see a statue of the Buddha with a sword, that's Manjushri and his sword of transcendent wisdom to cut through ignorance. Anyway, so these guys are hanging around, Manjushri comes in, and these guys say, hey, Manjushri, have you ever seen someone who became enlightened quickly? And Manjushri says, yeah, there's this 8-year-old girl who became a Buddha in an instant and has compassion for all sentient beings as if they were her own children. And these guys think and say, man, an 8-year-old girl can't become enlightened, right? The bodies of women are impure and filthy, and they can't attain Buddhahood. And here comes this girl, and she amazes everyone with her compassion, and everyone acknowledges her and rejoices. So, and there are countless, myriad stories of people like this, of people gaining their full spiritual potential. So if little girls can become Buddha, if evil monks can become Buddha, and all these other people in between, so can you. That's pretty much the stories in this book, that we all possess what they call Buddha nature. Every one of us has Buddha nature, and there are no exceptions, so you cannot make an exception for yourself. We all have Buddha nature. Shogam Trungpa Rinpoche, the person that we heard Skip talk about earlier, says or translates this phrase Buddha nature as basic goodness. So we all have basic goodness. So this book expresses kind of the possibility and amazingness that we can kind of flower with this basic goodness. And we can radiate this goodness out for the peace and sanity of others. So if we can touch this goodness and radiate it out, then we can build an enlightened society. So I think basic goodness is the headwaters that Randy talks about. Often when I sit in services here, I kind of space out occasionally. But last week I was actually paying attention to something you guys do every week. You sing a simple song written by Mary Lynn that I think is just totally amazing. It's in this moment I am joy. Joy is this moment. Joy, joy, joy. This moment is what I am. So it's this moment is what I am. It's kind of a Zen song. Being in the moment is the same as expressing basic goodness. If we can kind of be spot on right in the moment, we're radiating basic goodness. They are one and the same. But wait, there's more to my infomercial for this month's theme of basic goodness. Marina Keegan, a 22-year-old, wrote this a few weeks before her college commencement at Yale. We don't have a word for the opposite of loneliness, but if we did, I could say that that's what I want in life, what I'm grateful and thankful to have found at Yale, and what I'm scared of losing when we wake up tomorrow and leave this place. It's not quite love, it's not quite community, it's just this feeling that there are people, an abundance of people who are in this together, who are on your team. When the check is paid and you stay at your table, when it's 4 a.m. and no one goes to bed, that night with the guitar, that night we can't remember. The time we did, we went, we saw, we laughed, we felt, the hats. I think we all have had experiences like that, the camaraderie of college or in the military, the people, or the feeling that there are people that are in this together. And I get a bit of that feeling here. There are people I know who I've known for quite a long time. Skip, over there, Skip, and Larry, and people I've met more recently, but I get this feeling here that we're kind of in this together, that we're on the same team. And what would life be like if we had this feeling with everyone in Las Cruces? Everyone we meet, we have this intense feeling that we are in this together, that we're on the same team. So there'd be suffering in life, You know, we lose our job, have an illness, maybe even chronic illness, but we'd have this amazing feeling that we're all connected, that we'd be 100% supported, that everyone has our back. We can create, I think, this opposite of loneliness society by tapping into our basic goodness and radiating that goodness out to draw on our good. And to paraphrase Shunryu Suzuki, we are already good, we are basically good, but we still have a lot of work to do. Well, so what is that work? What can we do to draw on our good? Well, in Zen Buddhism, and in most forms of Buddhism, that core work would be meditation. But are there other spiritual calisthenics, kind of simple things we can do in life that will help us connect to drawing on our good? I've kind of explored that question for a bit, and it was sometimes tricky to find answers, but then I found this book, How to Wake Up, a Buddhist-inspired guide to navigating joy and sorrow by Toni Bernhardt. And in it, she has numerous exercises of ways of kind of tapping into your basic goodness. I'm going to talk about 10 of those, most of them from this book. If you're kind of like what I'm talking about, these exercises, please check out this book, How to Wake Up. So I facilitate an online, let me get this phrase right, online video Buddhist book study group. There I got the long term out. And a few weeks ago, we had a new member join us who's from Ohio. And I got to chatting with her a few minutes before the group and discovered she's a dog groomer. And then I say, well, I have 2 standard poodles. And then she says, well, I have a standard poodle too. And off we go in conversation. We make a connection. I work in Virginia, and we just hired a new professor in the department who happens to be born and was raised in Cloudcroft and did his undergrad here at NMSU. Bam, you know, a connection's made, and off we go in conversation. So you might think that these identities we have, the way I was introduced with these lists of things that I am, will help us make connections. So one exercise I did was write down a list of identities. So a list of things that you might say if I kept asking you, who are you? And here's my partial list. You heard some of these. I'm a computer science professor. I am Cheryl Clark's husband. Maybe that should have come first. I'm a father for Father's Day. I've lived in, let's see, Milwaukee, Middleton, Connecticut, northern Wisconsin, Edinburgh, Scotland, the suburbs of Boston, Boca Raton, Florida, Austin, Texas, and then here. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in music. I'm a Buddhist, an novitiate priest that was mentioned. I have a couple dogs. I'm not 100% healthy. The list could just go on, right? And you might be thinking, hey, I lived in Florida too, and I'll chat with him later. You know, we have this connection. Or I've had a poodle growing up. So you might think that the stronger we hold on to these identities, the better it is to make connections. So I went to the University of Minnesota, and let's say, you know, I'm really raw, you know, University of Minnesota. My truck is plastered with University of Minnesota decals and stickers, and my ringtone on my phone is a Minnesota fight song, the Minnesota Rouser. And, you know, everyone I meet who's, you know, a Minnesota alum, man, it's just like instant connection. You know, I just relate to them. But in reality, these strong identities or clinging to identities separates us from other people, right? They inhibit us from radiating basic goodness. What clinging to these identities does is it kind of leads to the opposite of loneliness, right? You went to the University of Kansas, you know, not as good as the University of Minnesota. You know, I'm a Buddhist, you know, you're not, or I'm a dog person, you're a cat person, or whatever. So this prevents us, clinging to these things, prevents us from living in the moment. And last week, Randy said his talk was a series of questions, and it basically was. Well, I have a question. What did people do on vacation before there were cameras? That's my question. What did people do on vacation before there were cameras? Because last week I was doing a motorcycle trip kind of on the dirt roads of Utah. And the last day I took a break from that and went to Arches National Park. And there were just tons of people there. People from all over, you know, tour buses with Japanese and Koreans, a motorcycle group from Germany, French speakers. And we were all united in going from one scenic spot to another, snapping pictures. That's what we did. So that leads to my question of what did people do on vacation before there were cameras? It seems to me that people are so busy snapping pictures and kind of trying to build up a story about themselves that they don't really experience the moment, right? They don't appreciate that moment. Although that contemplative photography class that's being offered at Peace Lutheran might be kind of a cool thing to check out. So anyway, back to the list. So Tony Bernhardt says that after we make this list, to go through the items and see if they bring us joy and or sorrow. So not being healthy is kind of a bummer, so that's a sorrow one. Dogs, mostly joy, and so on. And then do what she calls the hound dog test. She has a hound dog, Rusty, and she thinks Rusty knows her the best, knows kind of the real her. So the test is to go through the list item by item and see if the dog knows me as blank. Do my dogs think of me as a professor? No. As born in Milwaukee or being a Buddhist? No. What they care about, what dogs care about, is who we are in the moment, right? And what people care about is who we are in the moment. So exercise 1 is write a list of your identities. Just spend some time, who am I? And do the hound dog test. Does clinging to any of these identities really help in building this opposite of loneliness community? Are there other things about us that kind of inhibit us from building this loneliness community? Well, Jimmy Cliff famously sings, "You can get it if you really want." Remember that song from whenever? But you can't always get what you really want, right? Are you dissatisfied with anything in your life? I'm dissatisfied with plenty of things. If I could, here are some of the things I'd change. I'd want the summer temperature in Las Cruces to be like 65 to 75, maybe 80 degrees, right? That's it. Or, I'm kind of worried about the drought, so I'd have plenty of water here. I'd be 100% healthy. And I'd have a light on when I sleep. Cheryl really likes lights out, completely dark, but I like when I get up to actually see where I'm going if I need to get up. So we all have these lists, but dwelling and being kind of attached to these satisfactions doesn't lead to happiness, right? Dwelling on these satisfactions leads to complaining, and complaining just leads to us, not being in the moment. And remember, for a few years, I think it was these complaint-free wristbands that were popular here like 7, 8 years ago. I thought I wasn't too keen on them back then, but I've since changed my mind. I think, being aware that you're complaining is a good thing. So these complaint-free ones, or have a rubber band, and every time you're aware of complaining, you switch the band to the other hand. Can you go 21 days without complaining? Or you could ask someone, hey, when I complain, let me know when I'm complaining. So just being aware of complaining might be a good thing. And we all have desires. I want to go to Colici's for ice cream, but sometimes we have desires, like with capital letters desires, kind of a thirst. And one way you could see this is you could kind of translate this as if only. If only I had a job here in Cruces, I'd be happy. Or if only I was 100% healthy, nothing else would matter in life, it would be good. Or if only I had a car that worked and didn't break down all the time, life would be good here. But this if only, this dwelling on, what could be, these thirsts, again, draws us away from being in the moment. And maybe we need an if only wristband here. So, but really the technique is the same, of just being aware of touching that, hey, I'm complaining here, or I'm dwelling on my thirsts. And then just let it go. So this let it go step's sort of important. So imagine that you're complaining all the time and you're aware of it and you're trying to you're just trying to stop complaining. So you think, man, every morning I wake up, I vow not to complain, and then bam, off I go complaining. And every morning's the same, complain, complain, complain. Well, this inner dialogue is just another complaint, right? It's getting us nowhere. Really the important step is just being aware of it. Hey, I'm complaining, and then just let it go. Just be gentle with yourself and realize way, way down, deep inside, you're basically good. So this exercise 2 is do some complaint practice, awareness of complaints, and maybe extend it to if only. Then there are exercises directly related to living in the moment. So Thich Nhat Hanh in his monastery has a chime that rings every hour, and the instructions are that when you hear that chime, take 3 conscious breaths and be aware, turn your attention to the moment and be aware of that moment. Instead of what we're normally doing is doing something and kind of our mind is off thinking about something else. So let's just give that a try now. Take 3 breaths and just turn your attention to the moment. So we can do this exercise by setting an hourly chime on our wristwatch or phone. Reverend Daiho has this chime that rings on his phone at a random time. But Tony has an interesting twist in this thing. Every time she hears a dog bark, she has a dog and it barks. Every time she hears a dog bark, she uses it as a reminder to take 3 breaths and be aware of the moment. It kind of transforms that experience of dog barks. Another exercise you can do to be in the moment is to cut back on multitasking. Korean Zen master Sung Sung tells the students, when reading, only read. When eating, only eat. Not watching TV and eating, not reading while eating, not texting while having lunch with someone. Just do one thing. So I live in Virginia, I take my dogs for a walk in the woods, and as part of this path is paved, and there's lots of runners with earbuds on, listening to stuff. And once I even saw a mother, earbuds on, pushing one of these runners, baby strollers with a toddler inside, looking at an iPad. So in a national park, in the woods. There's nothing wrong with multitasking. There's nothing wrong while running with earbuds. But if we want to learn to be in the moment, it's a lot easier to learn to be in the moment if you're doing only one thing. So start off simply, a few times this week. When you're eating, just eat. Or when you're driving, just drive instead of listening to the radio, or just exercise, or just wash the dishes. Another suggestion for living in the moment. So Tony Bernhardt heard an NPR story about the slow internet movement. I don't know if anyone's heard of this, the slow internet movement. So in hipster cities like Portland, there are these cafes with intentionally slow internet connections. The idea is slow brew, slow down. And Tony thought, wow, this is a great idea. And then she realized she was listening to the story on April 1st. But then she realized, well, hey, this is a good idea anyway. I'm going to slow down my activities by about 25%. So when you're doing the laundry, just intentionally slow it down. Or when preparing dinner, slow it down. And I tried this when hiking in Utah. I'm kind of a goal-oriented person. When I'm hiking to get somewhere, get to a ruin, or get to some scenic spot. So I tried this exercise. I slowed down my walk into some absurd slow speed, and it really opened things up. I really realized that I'm more aware of what's going on. So I just gave you 3 exercises. Exercise 3, the mindfulness chimes. 4 was cut back on multitasking. And 5 is to join the slow movement. My final suggestion in this area is a Stoic practice, not a Buddhist one. When you go outside for the first time each day, look at the sky. Just take a few breaths and look at that sky. Is it blue, bright blue? Is it a rare cloudy day? You might want to say some affirmations. I'm here, I'm alive, it's a new day. It's really a powerful practice. I just find it incredible. So exercise 6, look at that sky. So all these exercises are about touching your goodness. And when you do this, you'll feel that you have some kind of kindness or gentleness with yourself. It's because you're touching that goodness that's inside you. And how about extending that goodness to other people? Well, in Zen Buddhism, we recite some variant of the following. May all beings enjoy happiness and the root of happiness. May we be free from suffering and the root of suffering. May we not be separated from the great happiness, devoid of suffering. May we dwell in the great equanimity, free from passion, aggression, and prejudice. This refers to the 4 qualities we strive for. 1 is kindness and friendliness. 2 is compassion. 3 is appreciative joy. And 4 is equanimity. So here's a simple exercise you can do for friendliness. When you're out somewhere in public, say a Walmart or Albertsons, look at someone and silently say something friendly. Say, I hope you're having a good day today, or I hope you're having fun, or may you have a wonderful time. It's really a good exercise. And I thought we could try that now. So you might want to look at someone, maybe their back or wherever, and just silently say something friendly to them. See what that feels like. So this is an antidote for our usual way of looking at people and judging them even though we don't know them. Right? There's we're in Walmart and we're judging people. There's a person I heard, a software developer, had a $100,000 a year software development job, and he lost his job. He had to sell his 100-year-old Victorian home in Boston, move back to his boyhood home in North Carolina, and here he was at Goodwill buying furniture for his kids and thinking, I'm better than these people. I'm not poor. And then he thought, what's wrong with me? We're just here all trying to get by. We're all the same people. So we're kind of like instant judgers of everyone, even though we don't know anything about them. So this is a really good exercise, this friendliness one, to kind of combat that. And it also, when you practice it, the world just seems a little bit brighter. So exercise 7, friendliness practice. Compassion, or helping people, or in helping people with their suffering. Here's the thing. If you think people are doing things incorrectly, it's hard to be compassionate toward people. Here's an example. Suppose we work at a company and we had this big due date last Monday, and we knew about this for months. And we also knew for months that we would have to work the weekend before that to get done for Monday. And then on Friday it comes along, and one of our coworkers, Paul, he says, well, I'm taking off. I'm going to take a break, go sailing at Elephant Butte, and have a good weekend. I need some downtime here. And off he goes. And the rest of us all work the weekend. And on Monday, here he comes back, and he has the worst case of sunburn we can imagine. He's really suffering. How much compassion do we have for him? Or here's another example. Suppose I am married, and for convenience sake, let's call that person Cheryl. And suppose she has some physical ailment that's really painful. And I can see that she's suffering. And the traditional treatment is some sort of surgery. And because I'm kind of a traditional kind of guy, I'm 100% behind the surgery idea. But she's doing all this internet research and sees that, she decides she's going to go off the pain meds and do a 100-day body cleanse. It involves like sweat lodges and these hot rocks. And all she can eat is protein powder and sauerkraut. And I'm thinking, the sauerkraut isn't really looking like it agrees with her. It looks like she's suffering, and if she only had that surgery, she'd be free from suffering. And so what's getting in the way of my compassion is thinking, hey, my way, the Ron Zacharski way, that's the correct one. And she's really misguided in her approach. As what's getting in the way is my view of what, how people should work is getting in the way of having compassion for Paul. Right? So it's like everyone should follow what I say. And even people we don't know, we weave these stories. So we're at Walmart and are weaving stories about people. And we hear it on the news that, people who are on food stamps are lazy. Or, people did something wrong and that's why they're homeless or whatever. And we can't have compassion for people if we blame them. So we're kind of already on the road from blame to compassion. The more we can kind of diminish the self, the more we can let the self fade away, the more we can be open to other people. But there is some exercises directly related to compassion, the compassion calisthenic. Here's how it works. First, get in a place with lots of people. This works best with people you don't know. So, for example, Walmart, keep bringing that up, Albertsons, the airport, and realize when you look at these people that some of these people have physical ailments. Some of these people may be mourning the loss of a loved one. Some of these people might be worried about their sick parents. Or they may just have suffered a breakup. Or they may be worried about their money or worried about their kids. Everyone we see has some sorrow. Or Buddhists say everyone we see has 10,000 sorrows. And people are just trying to get by the best they can. People are just trying to get by the best they can with the sorrows they have. So the exercise is to look at someone and say things like, sorry. I hope you have people in your life who care about your suffering. Or we share this planet and our suffering, know that I care. Or may your suffering ease soon. So we can try that now. Just imagine times in your life that you've suffered. Realize that everyone in this room has suffering, right? Everyone in this room has lives that contain sorrows. And then look at someone and silently say, I hope you have people in your life who care about your suffering. We share this planet and our suffering, know that I care. And may your suffering ease soon. So that's compassion practice. So for these practices, people don't have to see you. You can just kind of be looking at someone's back and extend them. Now let's move to appreciative joy. Appreciative joy is when you rejoice in the happiness of others. So here's the thing. So if you can only be happy when good things happen to you, when you get a job, you go out on a date, you get a new car, then there's only a limited number of times you can be happy in life. There's only so many cars you can get. There's so many jobs you can get. But if you can be happy because other people have joy in their life, other people get a car, other people go on vacation, other people go on dates and get married, then the amount of happiness you can have is limitless, right? If you can be happy with other people. And we've all had this experience of appreciative joy. For example, several years ago, my son got married. He was very happy, so I was very happy. But often we experience the opposite, jealousy, right? A coworker goes on vacation or gets a car or goes on a date, and we experience jealousy, not appreciative joy. And jealousy can kind of just reach out at us in some odd times. So I live in Virginia, Cheryl here, and I've been encouraging her to go to Austin, Texas, to visit our son Adam for Thanksgiving, and off she goes. And then I noticed, man, I have a little bit of feeling inside. Man, it's jealousy. Why do I have jealousy? I was actually encouraging to go. So it's really odd that, I have this jealousy inside. It really sneaks up. So we need appreciative joy practice. So back to Walmart. And we see a young couple there who are obviously in love and having lots of joy. We can feel that joy and extend it back. Or today, when we saw a little child up here, we can feel that joy that kid had and just extend it back. Or we're at Walmart and see a young mother happy and their child laughing. We can feel and appreciate that joy. Or we don't even need to be anywhere. We can be sitting in our own living room watching TV, and there are award shows and sports competitions, or we can be going to school performances. There's lots of opportunities to practice appreciative joy. So exercise 9, appreciative joy, rejoicing in the happiness of others. Finally, equanimity, or staying balanced with life's ups and downs, having a calmness in life. Here's an example from Tony's book. Back in February 2012, she was looking out her kitchen window and saw the start of an amazing sunset. So she went outside to her deck to sit down and she just was sitting there appreciating the sunset. Her husband was watching the news on TV, and after a while he came dashing in dashing to the porch and saying, "Oh my God, the Syrian government's killing people in the streets, and they have nothing to eat and nothing to drink. It's awful there." Her first reaction was, why is my husband coming to this porch and bothering me when I'm trying to enjoy the sunset? And then she thought, why am I enjoying this sunset when there are people dying in Syria? And then equanimity kicked in. We don't have to, the sunset is beautiful, and people are dying in Syria. We don't have to kind of grasp for joy and recoil from sorrow. Our heart is big enough for both, right? The joy of a sunset and the sorrow of people dying. So for some people, when they wake up, they're right away thinking about all their struggles and sorrows. And for me, I wake up cheery. It's at night when I'm trying to sleep that I'm having these problems of all these ideas of struggles going through my head. But when you catch yourself ruminating on your sorrows, there's an exercise called Start With Where You Are. Just reflect that everyone in life, everyone has sorrows. Everyone has good days, everyone has bad days. Sometimes things are easy, hard. No one gets a pass on struggles. And if you don't believe me, just listen to some country music, all right? There's Gary Allen sings, life ain't always beautiful. Sometimes it's just plain hard. Wonderful song. And reflect on the fact that everyone suffers. And identify your difficulties, your struggles, and just say to yourself, I start with where I am. Acknowledge these and just say, I start with where I am. So you're accepting and engaging life as it is, instead of kind of going on the ups and downs of the roller coaster. And sometimes we want to be a fixer. We see our son and we want our son to be happy and not be sad, not have these sorrows. We want to kind of protect him from all these sorrows, but we can't. There's sorrows in everyone's life. So the antidote for being a fixer is to have some affirmations like, you're on your own path, or may you live in peace, regardless of the ups and downs of life. So that was exercise 10, equanimity practice, accept life and start where you are. So I've given you 10 exercises to touch that basic goodness, to draw on your good. And they've also given you a way to transform your waiting in the checkout line. So instead of viewing it as kind of a bad thing, and instead of saying, oh my God, there's so many people ahead of me, you have all these people that you can practice on. A basic belief in Buddhism and science of mind is the law of cause and effect. So how one kind word, one kind action can ripple across the universe and have untold effect. So one small thing you do may ripple across to someone and help that person experience the opposite of loneliness. The University of Texas, their slogan is "What starts here changes the world." And I think that's a great slogan that could apply here. What starts here changes the world. So may you live in peace regardless of the ups and downs of life. Thanks, and I'll see you at Walmart.